Well, the liberal establishment just took out one of their own. Again, former MP Ruby Dhalla fought to stay in the liberal leadership race, but the party brass has crushed her bid, citing rule violations. She calls it a hit job, a smear, a fix, and she's not backing down. Was she disqualified for breaking the rules, or was this just another case of the Liberals rigging the game to clear the path for their hand-picked globalist puppet? Former Liberal MP Ruby Dhalla, welcome to the Richard Syrett Show. How are you?
Thank you, Richard. I'm good.
So let's just cut right to the chase here. Do you believe your disqualification was politically motivated?
150%. I think it was very clear that the Liberal Party of Canada did not want to have Ruby Dhalla on that debate stage. They certainly did not want me on that ballot. And they wanted to do everything possible to complete the coronation of Mark Carney.
And you said these allegations are false, fabricated. Who do you think is behind them specifically?
Well, when you're questioning the establishment, and I think you're bruising a few egos along the way, my campaign from the onset was to bring the Liberal Party of Canada back to the center. My campaign was focused on bringing the party back into the hands of the membership and the grassroots, and also about talking about progressive policy ideas that are the need of the hour in our country. It was very clear that the establishment and the egos were being bruised, and they wanted to ensure that they would not have anyone who was statusing the challenge quo. They did not want to have anyone who's questioning Mark Carney for those debates, and hence they came up with this disqualification to keep me off the debate stage, to keep me off of the ballot, to ensure that they would complete the coronation of Mark Carney. This is a direct attack on democracy, and it's something that is unacceptable and really unseen and unheard of in Canadian history, I believe.
Do you have any evidence that the request, let's say, to DQ you came from Mark Carney's camp, or was it someone, I don't know, in the Liberal Party?
Yeah, I'm the only candidate that wasn't actually a part of the establishment, so I don't know who within the establishment, was responsible for concocting this. I don't know who from the establishment, wanted to have me out. That only remains for the establishment and the insiders to know. I only know that out of the 5 candidates that were running, out of those 5, all 4 of them were either advisors, ministers, or member of parliament to the current administration. And I was the only one that wasn't in the Ottawa bubble and the only one that was living in the real world. And you have some of the Liberal talking heads now coming on TV saying that I was too aggressive and I was questioning Mark Carney. Well, last time I checked, this was a leadership contest. This was an election campaign. And what do you do in an election campaign? You discuss and you debate ideas and the vision that you have for your candidacy. And that's exactly what I was doing.
I want you to address some of the accusations that you said are a smear, a fix, a hit job. They claim you accepted corporate donations through campaign staff payments. Address that if you could.
Well, first of all, for the corporate donations that they are saying, it's completely false. I would first of all like to say that we haven't even filed an expense report with Elections Canada. Once the elections report is filed, it'll be Elections Canada that ever determines if any type of violations have been committed. If there has been no report filed with Elections Canada, how does the Liberal Party have this predetermined agenda to say that I committed a violation? Secondly, the company in question was actually the vendor. The last time I checked, that the Elections Canada Act allows any campaign or candidate to choose any vendor of their liking. There are no restrictions around that. So for them to fabricate this and do all of these fictitious analogies, one of the breaches was about a future potential election. Well, we haven't had a future potential election. Let's talk about the election, the leadership race, which exists right now. One day it was foreign interference. The next day it was financial violations. This has just left many of us just scratching our heads.
So I just want to be clear on this. They're accusing you of failing to disclose key financial details, but you're saying you're not required yet because that's up to Elections Canada.
Yeah, the report for the final Elections Canada, return, as one would say, is not due until September the 9th, first of all. So for them to go and accuse me of breaches of Elections Canada, it's all very absurd. And what's even more absurd out of this whole situation is when I went in front of the committee, I did not know before I went on to that committee that they had already made their decision. Because minutes before I was about to start the committee, I actually received a message from a reporter on my phone advising me that I would be disqualified by the end of the day. And me being the fighter that I am, I never give up. I have had, hundreds of thousands of people that wanted, to support me. I had thousands of liberal members across the country. I just felt I owed it to them more than anyone else to fight this until the end. And I knew going into my final set of appeals that reporters were already messaging me, telling me in advance that I would be disqualified. But I never gave up. I still continue to try. And I just really feel like so many millions of Canadians. Richard, we've had 5.8 million impressions on Twitter in 96 hours. Canadians, regardless of political party, are angry and they're mad because this is an attack on democracy and free speech in our country.
Do you think your Indian heritage played a role in the party's decision to push you out? I mean, there have been two Liberal candidates for the leadership disqualified, both of Indian descent.
Well, Richard, you just outlined one of the examples and I was the second. So I think the facts actually speak for themselves. I'm never one to play, the card of racism or victim as a woman. I don't play those, cards. But unfortunately in this, the party first kicked out, Dr. Jane Philpott, and then kicked out Jody Wilson-Raybould, and then kicked out Selena. I don't know what the track record is of kicking out smart, successful, intelligent, strong women. And then they've gone and kicked out Mr. Arya. I don't know what the reasons of his disqualification were, but I was the second person from the community to get kicked out. And then they were trying to paint this whole thing about foreign interference. And I actually went and did a video later on in the day after that was percolating all over the media and said, forget about the Liberal Party leadership. I would never allow any political institution, and that includes the Liberal Party of Canada, to ever come out and attack people from multicultural communities, to attack people from immigrant communities, and to attack people of color. I would not allow it. That video went viral. And guess what? A few hours later, the Liberal Party of Canada then issued a statement to different media outlets stating that this did not have to do with foreign meddling. So every day was a different perceived violation, but it's really sad for a party that is the Liberal Party of Canada, which obviously is not so liberal after all.
Was there, when you look back now, was there ever a fair path for you in this race, or was your campaign doomed from the start?
I never give up. And, my candidacy was historic. I was the first woman of color, to run for a leadership in our party. I was also the first woman of one of the first women of color and the first multicultural person, who is a woman to run to become Canada's prime minister from the Liberal leadership. And it is so unfortunate because from day one, we just faced challenge after challenge of whether it was not getting access to lists or having delayed access to lists, while although the other candidates could send out emails, ours ended up, in the spam box, hours before, days before there were deadlines for the deposits of $350,000. All of a sudden, guess what? Our link would not work. And every time there was a delay or there was a block, they always found a way to pin it on us. But at the end, I knew that there was a lot of internal machinations going on within the establishment to try to block and prevent us. But the one thing that they had no power over, and that was the voices of the members. They tried to block me from connecting with the members, and I held a virtual town hall. In 4 town halls, I had over 1,000 people attend. They could see the digital media presence just growing and growing and the momentum building because they were trying to stop me, and our momentum was growing as we came out with more and more progressive policy ideas.
I'm not sure if you bothered to watch the debate last night in French. Not many did, by all accounts. Only about 8,000, I think, on social media. If you were on that debate stage last night and tonight, the English debate, give me 1 or 2 questions that you would ask Mark Carney or Chrystia Freeland, for that matter.
Well, I can tell you a couple of things. First of all, it certainly wouldn't have been a snooze fest, and it certainly wouldn't have been an environment where everyone, it felt like a group chat where everyone, or a brainstorming session where everyone was agreeing with everyone. The whole point of a debate is to come forward with different ideas, to come forward with a different vision, but everyone just seemed to be aligned. The first question that I would ask Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland, for that matter, would be that you had 10 years, and especially to Mr. Carney, you have been the advisor to Mr. Trudeau. How is it, after being an advisor for so many years and having all of these incredible credentials, according to the establishment, that you couldn't help Canadian families? Why is it that Canadians are still struggling? Why is it that Canadians are still overburdened with so much tax, whether it's through their personal income tax or through the corporate income tax? And why is it, both to all of the candidates, because they were involved in the current administration, why is it that our country never had a plan? And why is it that our country invested all of our eggs in one basket in the United States of America? And why is it, Mr. Carney, that our country, because of your political and economic advice, is being hijacked by a foreign leader and by Mr. Trump?
I'm hearing you talk about taxes, Ruby, and I think you pricked up a lot of ears with your stance on immigration. Would you consider running? I know it's still smarts and you're just getting over what's just happened to you, but would you consider running under another party banner, the Conservative Party?
Right now, I haven't made any considerations, to be very honest. I was actually preparing for the debates from the day I decided, actually before I decided to enter the leadership race. I was really looking forward to being a strong voice. I haven't been in the Ottawa bubble, Richard, for the last 10 years. I've really just lived in the real world. When people spoke of my policies, a lot of people said these are very conservative. And I said, well, the Liberal Party has gone so far to the left, and they've all been living in the Ottawa bubble. I don't know if they're in tune with reality. And I wanted to ensure that I give everyone a reality check to talk about issues and ideas which are the need of the hour in our country. So I was preparing for those debates, and after getting disqualified and kicked off because they didn't want to have anyone questioning their golden boy, and they didn't want anyone stopping the coronation, I'm just in the process of absorbing everything. But I can share with you that tonight we are going to have our own little debate analysis, and there is Mario Zanaya, who is with TikTok. He's a TikTok star with over 10 million followers. I have about 1 million. So we have 11 million people that we're going to be engaging tonight just on the debate to talk about real issues that impact Canadians.
The party's withholding about $21,000 in donations. You had to ante up $350,000, I believe, to enter the race. What's going to happen with that money?
Well, the $350,000 needs to be immediately returned to hardworking Canadians. Now, you have to remember that the maximum donation limit is $1,750. So for those donors that have contributed $1,750, that's after taxes. So they had to work a lot harder and pay a lot more than even the $1,750 to be able to donate that. And I think the party should do the right thing. This is not about Ruby Dhalla. This is about doing something that is ethical, about doing something that is right, and returning the funds to all of the donors that contributed towards that $350,000, because it was the faith that they had in my campaign, and they wanted to see the vision that I had for the party and for the country, to be implemented and to move forward with that. So I would hope that they're going to do the right thing. They're going to return that $350,000. We did file that in our appeal. It was turned down, but we are going to continue to ask once again to the party just to do the right and to do the honorable thing. They came out with these supposed questions that they had minutes or hours after the $350,000 deposit was actually given. It makes no sense. And for a party that practices, wanting to have women, wanting to have young people, wanting to have people from immigrant communities, this is just really self-explosion and self-implosion at the end, because you take a look at the people that have voiced up and spoken up on Twitter alone, 5.8 million impressions in 96 hours. Canadians are angry and they want that money returned.
What do you say to Liberal Party members who are sitting back now and say this party isn't even a democracy? They just pick their own elites. What do you say to them who feel like their voices don't even count today in the Liberal Party? What do you say? What do you tell them?
I think not only for Liberals, but for people that don't feel their voices count when it comes to democracy, maybe that's why we've had so many millions of people just join this sort of movement, the movement of truth, of wanting to have fairness and democracy and justice in our country. And for the Liberal Party, the Liberal Party that was known, any political party, you always want to expand its reach. Before this leadership contest started, Richard, I think we were at 16% or 20% in the polls. If we were to continue with status quo of Trudeau 2.0, the party is not going to fare very much better, despite all of these polls, that they had coming out with, of the outcome with Carney as leader. The party needs to expand its reach. It needs to talk about those progressive policy ideas. But the party establishment and their egos clearly have no intention of doing so. And maybe that's why smart, strong, intelligent women are getting kicked out.
If this is the Liberal Party today, do you even want them to win?
Well, I would have hoped that they would have had more of an inclusive approach instead of kicking out people. So I think the next steps, have to be decided, to be very honest. I've had so many people reach out to us on all of our social media channels and call us and email us. And I just really want to say to everyone, thank you for your support. We are going to ensure that we have a path forward to have the voices at the forefront of this movement.
Former Liberal MP Ruby Dhalla and disqualified from the Liberal leadership race, and her appeal was denied. Ruby, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You were saying disqualified, and I was just going to say, and while they were at it, they actually did it to humiliate me on national television, because CBC, the broadcaster, which is receiving all of government funds, which seem to be put to good use, because they sent the press release to CBC before I even received it. So it's all, very strange and a clear attack on democracy and free speech in our country.
Unfortunately, Ruby, that's how the Liberal Party rolls these days.
It appears so. We'll find out on March the 9th and what happens moving forward, and the Canadians, the choice that they make in the next election.
All right. Thank you for taking the time. Great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, this is Richard Syrett. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe.